So these pages are quite interesting set on page 6. I want you to turn to page 6 first. And you'll see a chart there. One more page. Chart. The top of 6 is a chart. It's a song. It's part of the slichot of the Sfardim, and the song and the words underneath it are also. And there are two tunes basically we'll be singing right now. I want you to look at the words for a minute and look at how the first song is set up in terms of triads, or actually there's four to each. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 is on the right, 2 is on the left, 3 is in the middle on the bottom, and then 4. And then same again with 5, 6, 7, and 8. So please just get a little bit of an insight before we sing the words. I'll teach you the tune. There's a very strange thing about the second one down at the bottom, which is Hebrew, English, Hebrew, English. So give a quick look to the English. Page 6. On page 6. So you see Abraham on the right, and Yitzhak on the left, and Yaakov below them in the middle. Basically, the whole class is about Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, but not only in terms of who they were and how and what they embodied, but that they're code words for something more than. So the whole system of prayers, especially Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, our whole system of prayers is based on the right, left, center concept. Right being love, being unconditional love, being embraced in oneness, melting, being held up, being supported, being cared for, being considered. And the left side is the antithesis. So we have thesis and antithesis. The left side represents judgment, represents bikoret, looking deeply to see what you're made of, what each one of us is made of. It doesn't counteract, it doesn't contradict love, but the sense of it is the initial experience of the left is, where's the love? The lights were on the right side, and all of a sudden the lights have gone out on the left side. Why have you left me in the dark? Why do I feel abandoned? And this is a continuation of what we spoke about last week, but it's all, even if you weren't here. So just relate to what I'm saying.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So this is associated with the
page 6.
Sphero,
For sure, we're going into the Sphero,
right,
yeah.
Okay, the right column.
Right, left, and
So,
center.
and in terms of like things like Hesed, Lavora, right? So the question I have is, I know the right is associated with masculine and the left is associated with the feminine, and it's just a little counterintuitive in terms of how, you normally think kind of feminine qualities being more the Hesed, the loving kindness, whereas the masculine qualities being more the judgment and kind of the.
There's a whole thing behind this.
About,
women are on the right and men are on the left also. So it's really.
And I'm not saying men and women. I'm saying
masculine, feminine
qualities, feminine qualities. I mean, everybody has masculine and feminine, but usually the association is like the opposite.
Well, in Judaism, in the Kabbalistic writings, the concept of being a giver and being a receiver, being a mashpia and a mushpa. So, again, a mother, for instance, a woman who's a wife, is in one sense receiving, but in another sense giving. So, as a giver, she's on the right, and the receiver, she's on the left. It's just symbolic. It's a symbolic system. It doesn't mean it's very fluidic. And so also then, for sure, vis-a-vis one's children, one becomes a giver and also a receiver, but mostly a giver. So one's on the right vis-a-vis one's children. It doesn't mean to get stuck in right and left. I'm just starting with it and as a simple way of doing it. But we'll see. Let's sing the song first, and the song is meant to open up some channels that intellectual discourse can't open up. And so the Sephardim have started singing this song already, the beginning of Elo. You don't, as Ashkenazim don't sing it, so in a sense it's not yours, but it belongs to Klal Yisrael. And it's a very simple tune. It's almost like lilting. And then the second one is like very strange because the refrain of the second song is Chatanu lefanecha rachem aleinu. We have erred before you. Have compassion on us. And so the fact that you're singing this, and the song, and most of the way that most people sing it is na 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 na. It's an upbeat. It's an upbeat tune. And then you're singing, I've sinned before you, have compassion on me, right? But it's a serious song, and yet some people, because of the way it's an upbeat tune, that's what happens. That's the second one. So let's start with the first. We don't have a lot of time. The first tune is... Elohei Abraham, Anenu Fachad Yitzchak, Anenu Avir Yaakov, Anenu, Magen David, Anenu, Aone Betratzon, Anenu, Betzara, Anenu, Be'et Rachamim, Anenu, Elohei HaMerkava, Anenu, Elahadmeir, Anenu, B'zchutei Debar Yochai, Anenu, Rahum V'chanun, Anenu, Rahum V'chanun, Hatanu lefanecha, Rachem aleinu, Adon Selichot, Bochen Levavot, Gole Amokot, Dover Tzedakot, Hatanu lefanecha, Rachem aleinu, Adur Beniflaot, Vatik Vanechamot, זוכר ברית אבות, חוקר כליות חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, טוב ומיטיב לבריות, יודע כל נסתרות, כובש עוונות, לובש צדקות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, מלא זכיות, נורא תהילות, סולח עוונות, עונה בצרות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, פועל ישועות, צופה עתידות, קורא הדורות, רוכב ערבות, שומע תפילות, תמימים דעות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו. אל רחום שמך, אל חנון שמך, אל ערך אפיים שמך, מלא רחמים שמך, בנו נקרא שמך, אדוני עשה למען שמך. It's a real interesting mixture of things to go into this. Just for an example, Adon Selichot, master of forgiveness, but on the other hand, prober of hearts, revealer of deep secrets. In other words, you know our deepest secrets. You know what we're hiding from ourselves more than we know. Speaker of righteousness, I'm not exactly how fair. In other words, you speak righteousness here in terms of charitable righteousness. It's a mixture. Forgiveness is on the right side. Prober of hearts is a left side concept. Revealer of deep secrets is a left side concept, because you know a lot, and if you would just tell us, it might put us into a very deep problem, because there are things that we don't admit to ourselves. But on the other hand, you speak righteousness, you speak charitably, you don't come onto us very harshly. Majestic in working wonders, master of consolations, those are two right-handed ones. Recaller of ancestors' covenant is right hand, searcher of inner motives is a little bit left. Just again, just a light thing of just comparing what each one is, and how the majority of them are totally loving. You're good and beneficent to your creations. You know all concealed mysteries, and you know stuff. This is the second or third time it's already saying you know stuff, and that's supposed to bring me to an awareness that I want to come clean, because I know that you see through me, and for my benefit, I want to come clean. Subduer of intentional sins. What does that mean? It's called kovesh avanot. Subduer, kovesh, is to pickle, is to put down, is to repress, but in order to give us a chance to come out with the good that we have. Because he doesn't bring out the bad, he wants us to come out with the good despite whatever we've done. Adorned in charities. Filled with the desire to bestow merits. Awesome in praises, forgiver of intentional sins, answerer in times of distress, activator of salvations, foreseer of future events, of deeds, caller of the future generations, rider upon the highest heavens, hearer of prayers. It all at the end, it just becomes completely loving. And it's interesting, because love allows me to open up, allows me to feel that I'm accepted, so that I don't need to come and I don't need to fight you anymore. If you're coming against me with judgment, I might feel like I'm defensive. So the emphasis here is on the somebody who loves us, who cares for us. So it's interesting. This is slichot. Why is it called slichot? Because basically, it's if we become forgivers, then everything that we do not only is just forgiven, it becomes a stepping stone to become better and more powerful in the good that we have. It's not taking away the bad, it's transforming whatever we've done wrong into giving us the more power, the more awesomeness to be good. That's much better than eliminating the bad. And oh, we're not going to look at that. The bad becomes something that we inspect and that we know is there for a reason. And that gives us the ability to become better than we could have ever been otherwise. The next song, just to look at it from a distance, is the next page. The last page of this, at page 7, is one of the most beautiful songs I know about the Sfirot. So in a sense, it's a poem. It's a liturgical poem. It's a mystical poem. The way it deals with the Sfirot is so beautiful. And so it starts with Keter, goes all the way down to Malchut, and then ties them all up at the end with the 11th stanza. We'll come back to it. These pages are really something we can refer to for the entire year. Definitely, again, though, the Sfirot are going to be a very big thing by us. Coming back to page 1. So the first chart and the beginning of the second chart are in this first page. Systems of 3, I called it. Could find a better name. But 3 in the sense that 3 means thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. 3 is such a basic fundamental of life. It's protons, electrons, and neutrons. It's built into our experience of life. We go through stages in our childhood, which are Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod Yesod. They're stages of positive, negative, and then the resolution. So here, I'm just bringing a few things here in terms of the basics of Judaism, the holidays. And the system moves from the right to the left. So we have Pesach is in the right. The Omer, which is, in terms of time, it's in between Pesach and Shavuot, but in terms of its essence, it's the opposite of Pesach, and Shavuot is the synthesis.
Can you say why?
I'll say why, but it's really more important for me to get, this is just a jumping off to the second page, where it's all about Rosh Hashanah. So the ideas are here for you, and you can try and see if there's some kind of a sense of a flow here. That Yetziat Mitzrayim of Pesach is supernatural miracles. In the middle, Omer is desert, it's tests whether we maintain consciousness of what happened to us during the miracle time. It's a middle period, stage 2 if you wish. And then Eretz Yisrael, nature's miracle, we come into the Torah in terms of Shavuot, but in terms of where we come to after the desert, we come into Eretz Yisrael, where nature becomes miraculous. So the miracles that brought us out of Egypt are an opening in the sky, so to speak, a parting of the veil, a revealing of the mysterious, of the transcendent. The Omer period, or the desert period in general, is a closing of that and coming back to where we were, so to speak, but not in Egypt anymore, but we're left on our own. We're left to our own devices. And that's hard. We've been picked up. So what's the idea? Is once you've been picked up, now your work is to what? How would you articulate it? Once you've been picked up, and now the lights are off, and you're down, but something happened. You were picked up. What is your job during this stage 2?
To stay up on your own, or to not need the help?
I can't really do that completely.
To grab what you feel what you had.
To feel what I had, to try and internalize it. One of the metaphors is I'm stranded in the desert, and I need a tow truck. I left my lights on all night because I was afraid of the dark, and now in the morning I can't start my car. So a tow truck happens to be passing by. He puts his cables from his live battery to my dead battery. He says, "Start your car." I start my car. I say, "Thank you so much. Wow, great." And he says, "Not so fast. You have to drive 90 miles to internalize the charge. I'm going to take off the cables in a second. If you just go and stop city traffic, it's not going to be enough. You got to start driving, internalizing the charge. So stage 2 is to try and internalize what I've received when I've been lifted up. If there wouldn't be a stage 2, if it would just be God's love, what would be missing in my life? Of my own self. I'd be completely always tied to mommy's apron strings. So in psychology also, primary relationships have to be broken in order to establish secondary relationships with our parents, for instance. We have to have an adult relationship with our parents. We're no longer children. They might not see it like that. Some parents want to see us in the same way their whole life, and some siblings also. And they make sure to put us down the way we were in the old days. Okay. But we have to have a self-image that's growing and becoming, I am me, and I'm not what you think I am. And I stand in my truth. And I love you and I respect you. But you can't, even if you treat me the way you did, I'm not going to try and get back at you because I'm coming from a different place. Whatever, all the psychology of establishing as opposed to a dysfunctional or immature relationship, I'm establishing an interdependent relationship with my parents. But stage 2 is great. What?
It's not easy pass to the parent either. Not easy to the parent.
Well, for some of us who want our kids to grow up, it is. It's still hard, but it's joyous. Yes, not. Get your hand up. I mean, you just raised your hand because it was like floating up. Okay. Okay. So we're going down. We're gonna just very quickly temperament on the right side. Flock consciousness. Sheep, right? Flock consciousness, dependent on the shepherd. This is the astrological sign of Nisan, of the month of Nisan, the month of miracles of Passover. And then the Omer period, most of it is taken up by Iyar, which is the symbol of the ox in Jewish astrology, which is working alone, fighting for independence. It can't stand flock consciousness. It's an ox. An ox doesn't like a sheep, so to speak. But then the next month, the third month, is Gemini. It's the exact thing of Gemini, which is the twins, which is now I'm an ox and a sheep. And I'm not going to work against myself because the sheep has a tremendous advantage of being connected to its fellows. Yes, it doesn't work, the ox says. You don't work for a living. I don't like you. But the ox shouldn't cut off its nose to spite its face. In other words, the ox wants to also be part of a group. It just wants to do it its way. So yes, we can work together. There's the concept of the twins is harmonization, resolution of opposites, a balanced synergy, if not one or the other, if not going back and forth.
How does that relate to Shavuot?
Shavuot?
Yeah, I assume it's associated with Shavuot, right?
In a sense that the Midrash says that the 2 first months, the sheep and the ox, are contrary to each other, and it's only through them coming together and working together. It's also Yaakov and Esav. It's also Yaakov and Esav are very different, but they get together at the end of history to receive the Torah. I have friends who are coming for Sukkot from Texas, one of the greatest states in the United States, because they're sane, is that they're coming. He said to me, Russell said to me, we want to be a rectified Esav. We want to rectify our relationship with Yaakov. We don't want to kill Yaakov anymore. We don't want to Christianize him. We don't want to missionize him. We want to be rectified in a balanced relationship with Yaakov, and that's when Mashiach can come. Interdependence, maturity, as opposed to the middle column, which is independence, existentially cut off. There's nothing wrong with independence in itself. Dependence and independence are two opposites, though. And it's interdependence. It's my ability to be myself and interact with you as a mature individual. That's the stage 3. That's what I'm going for, stage 3. Okay, we'll skip some of the others and we'll go to the second page.
Because it's the harmonization and something else.
Synthesis. Integration. I'm starting a little bit too fast because I will slow down now, but I felt that it was very important at least to cover some ground, and don't worry about the details. The idea here is to give, while you're trying to fill in the right and the left and the center, or the right and the left and the resolution, is to give a sense. That's all I want. So here in the Hebrew you have Yamin Small Emsa, with the same basic idea of right, left, and resolution. Right, left, and center, but it's interesting that that something happens according to the Zohar, that the left becomes surrounded by the right and the center. So it's not center, it's right. It's Abraham on one side, it's Yaakov on the other side, and Yitzhak in the middle. And the Zohar goes pages on this, how Yitzhak's stage 2 judgmentalness about him, there's something about him, about the quality that he embodies, has to be surrounded and embraced by Yaakov and Abraham on the sides. So let's try and get into this. The idea is, who doesn't have pages? You don't have? Anybody else? The idea is like, how do we really get into Rosh Hashanah in an inner place? It's a holiday. You can learn about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur from any number of different points of view. There's a lot to say about them. What we're trying to get here is to an inner dynamic that's operative, that I can connect into, because I have a right, I have a left, and I have a center or a stage 3 resolution that I'm going towards. I want to come into my wholeness. And God wants me to come into my wholeness. I really want to know that. He set up this system, the system of creation, the system of Torah, as a threefold system. Yes, there's 4s and there's 5s and there's all the numbers are great, but we're kind of reducing it here into its threeness. And the threeness somehow, I want you to be able to start seeing it everywhere, so to speak. So let's try. In the Sfirot, we have Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. So, for instance, what we'll do is we'll go straight to Rabbi Kaplan. Page 5 is a text from Rabbi Kaplan from page 74 of Inner Space. And the way he deals with it shows a wholeness. This is the beginning of chapter 9, Malchut, in Inner Space. Anybody wants to know? And I really highly recommend getting the book, and if you have trouble, just tell me. So this is a tie-up. He's been doing the Sfirot up until here in chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8, as the Keter was the first, is chapter 5. Chochmah and Bina are chapter 6. Chesed, Gvurah, Tiferet are chapter 7. Chesed, Gvurah, Tiferet. He's going to tie it up here. That's why I'm coming here, not to there. Chesed, Gvurah, Tiferet as a triad. Netzach, Hod, Yesod. So in terms of their placement, this is Chesed, this is Gevurah, this is Tiferet. Right, left, center. Netzach, Hod, Yesod, my 2 legs, and the covenant, or alternatively the 2 kidneys, or alternatively the 2 ovaries, the 2 testes, etc. So there's a 3 here. So there's 3 here and there's 3 here. And what's Malchut? What's the concept of Malchut? So look at it on your own for a moment. Page 5. Let's take 10 minutes even to go through it if you want to do it with your partner next to you or just read it. It's Kaplan, it's intense, it's terse, but he has a flow. And so I want you to really connect to that. Yes. Take another minute. He was always deceivingly simple. But if you break it down, there's some three main ideas here that are really beautiful. So let's try and articulate those ideas. Anybody want to share anything that they want to ask or say or clarify here? Please be forthcoming. It doesn't matter. There's no mistakes. Just let's talk. So the idea of the traffic into the city. We want to come into the city, and coming into Yerushalayim at a certain hour is a lot of traffic outside. But they're trying to make it now better. So the city is trying to accommodate the people coming into the city. Okay, so whatever. Interesting. Why go there? There's a lot of gridlocks in New York. That's why he was talking about it. All these people getting stuck on the bridge. Chesed would be let as much traffic through as wants to cross. Gevurah would close it off completely. That's policeman. Tiferet would try to reach some kind of optimum. Just so basic that he says, like, just get clear. And he also says in another place that as an artist, one would splash paint on the canvas. That's Chesed. Gevurah would be, I'm holding the brush to the canvas, and I can't touch the canvas. I just can't do it because I'm so concerned that the first thing on there has to be, and the canvas remains white. Tiferet is a flow between me and the canvas. That makes sense? I mean, in a sense, Gevurah could work for my benefit because Gevurah could make me think before I do anything. There should be thought there should be an idea that I form in my mind of what I want. And even if this is going to change in the process, but the Gevurah moment of holding back allows me to some space between me and the canvas.
Chesed is like the origin of the flow. The flow.
It's a flow.
It's the origin. But the Gevurah is really the compartmentalization of the thought.
Beautiful. Compartmentalization. Now, there's not stopping it completely, but certainly breaking it up.
And the Tiferet is a combination of it all coming together for something more concrete. After it separates, it starts to solidify.
That's it. Beautiful. Okay.
And Tiferet is greater than the sum of its parts. Tiferet is much more infinite than either
Chesed or Gevurah. Yefeh. As we say about Avraham in Yitzhak, both Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov all have each other in them. But Yaakov, in a sense, is called Bechir HaAvot, the epitome of the Avot, because he contains not just a weak form of Chesed and a weak form of Gevurah, but he maximizes both of them and harmonizes them both with himself. So he has something more which is called the whole, which is greater than the sum of its parts. Not to take away from Avraham or to take away from Yitzhak. Each one was awesome, but that's the way we see it. Now, what does he do here? In terms of code language, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet, the initials come out as we call them Chagat. Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet. It's a physics language, and so therefore, just as in physics, there are going to be miniature ways of saying things, and then somebody, well, what is Chagat? And you can remind them, it says Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet. It's also Chita, Gefen, and Te'enim. It's the three of the fruits that Adam ate from the tree of knowledge. So, whatever. But Lo Chashuv. Here, then, is Chagat, and the Netzach Od Yesod, what's their initials, and how would we pronounce them, if we were Kabbalists? Netzach Od Yesod is Nun, Hey, Yud, called Nahi. Nahi. And when you add Malchut to it, it's called Nahayam. It's just playing with initials. There's no real importance in and of itself. So Chagat and Nahi. What is Rabbi Kaplan saying about this? All 6 of these, this top 3 and this bottom 3, are different in terms that, of course, Netzach is below Chesed, and Netzach is also giving to a certain extent, and Hod is below Gevurah, and they have something in common, and Tiferet and Yesod. But what's the difference between the 2 triads? Did anybody get that?
One's according to the giver's needs and one's according to the receiver's.
Beautiful. So that's what he says, that when I want to give you something, I don't want to take into account your limitations. I just want to give it to you. It might be a little bit sloppy, like the paint might pour into the bucket, or from the bucket into the bottle and just spill all over this because the bucket is not being careful to pour into the bottle with a funnel. So the bucket is not being respectful of the limitations of the vessel that's receiving. So the Netzach Yesod is always considerate of to whom I'm giving. And therefore he calls it the tailoring. It tailors down the giving in terms of the one who's receiving. This is a beautiful idea. The Vav of Hashem's name, which is being spoken about here as all these 6, is all about giving. In the earlier chapters, Rabbi Kaplan talks about the Yud being the essence of life that God wants to give, its essence of life in closed potential, like a Yud. Then the hand that holds it, the hand, God's hand that holds the closed essence potential that He wants to give us, is the Hey, which is Gematria 5. The hand of God that holds the closed potential that He wishes to give. His arm stretching out towards us, so to speak, and of course we embody this also. I want to give something to somebody. I have to have it. I have to hold it, and I have to stretch myself towards them. So that's the Vav. The equivalent of the Vav is God reaching out towards man. And so that reaching out is 2 triads. It's I'm reaching out because I want to give you. I'm reaching out now in a way that you can receive it. If I don't, it'll be damaging to you. In terms of heaven, my teachers have always told me they don't give you more than you can handle, but and that's a whole loaded statement. Sometimes they very much do. In which case, the answer would be they want to stretch you beyond your present capacities to what they think you can handle. So it's not such a simple thing. They don't give you more than you can handle. But in terms of spiritual levels, if heaven wants to give you something, it's like a teacher. A good teacher will give you enough that you can chew on it and you can build on it and come back with questions and come back with what you've thought about it and then give you more. And then it becomes a give and take. The more you can grapple with the ideas that the teacher is teaching, which is the teacher here is called the Netzach Yesod. He's bringing down the levels of his mind and he's encapsulating them in metaphors such as bridges and all kinds of things. He's giving them a physical thing, not just 3 but 3 apples, not just 3 but three aspects of giving, and then it goes into the Chochma Bina Badat of the student or of the child, which is at the level of the Netzach Yesod of the teacher. Anybody getting mixed up?
I'm wondering, is the second triad related to Bina?
Is the second triad related to Bina? In a certain sense, yes, even though
And it's breaking down.
you see the way it can happen.
Like when you say teacher.
Yeah, so certainly there are a lot of different kind of interactions between here. So Bina is up here in terms of Chochma, Bina, and Dat, and then Chesed, Gvurah, Tiferet. You have 3 triads going downhill, right? It's a giving system. The right and the left join to give birth to a third. That then allows a second triad to come into existence and a third lower triad. So even though, in a sense, the sphere that is specifically for the upper triad is Chachma. Bina is already a preparation for the lower triad, and Dat is a preparation for the lowest triad. Now there's all kinds of interrelationships. That's just an answer to your question. But the point is here, first to get real clear on the difference between Netzach and Yesod and our Netzach and our Chesed Gvor Tiferet. They are all into giving. They're a big Vav. They're a big reaching out. The Malchut is the receiver. So that's us, vis-a-vis God, and that's us vis-a-vis anybody who's giving to us. His Malchut concept here is that Malchut receives. It's the paradigm, the epitome of receiving, but it does something to what it receives. And it's similar to a womb, where the seed is planted in the womb, but the womb now does something that the seed itself can't do on its own. It develops the seed with its own seed into a complete baby. And it delivers the baby, it gives back something whole. And so Malchut is a deeper concept that really, in a sense, than all of the 6 Sfirot that lead to it. There's so much in the Kitvei Ari that we can learn about. Some of it's going to be brought inner space. It depends on. The main thing is really to just to kind of build ourselves up to be able to deal with these concepts. They are kind of the dynamical energy system behind creation. That's what Kabbalah is talking about. An example in our prayers is that King David is Malchut. And we bring 6 psalms from King David. Ashrei plus 146, 147, 148, 149, and 150. 6 psalms that are the essence part of the prayers called Psukei de Zimra, of that part of the prayer called Psukei de Zimra. And then we stand up and we quote from the book of Chronicles some of the last words that David spoke in his life, where he lists the Sfirot by name. And the relationship between what he has just done in the Psalms and what he's doing here by naming the Sfirot is that in the Psalms, he doesn't call them Chesed and Gevurah. He describes the activity of the Creator in his creation. What does God do vis-a-vis creation, vis-a-vis nature, and vis-a-vis history? He's the God of nature and the God of history. The description of the Creator operating within his creation is what Psalms are about. Is the detection or the acknowledgement of the presence of God behind the scenes, but through the biosphere, through our relationship with nature, through how water works, how everything works, how the sun works, etc. And then also our relationship with God through history. But it's all there's no one set of terms. It's like whatever the terms are. When he uses the Sfirot, he says, Lecha Adonai Hagidula, Ve'Givura, Ve'Teferet, Ve'Netzach, Ve'Hod, Ki Kol B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz, Lecha Adonai HaMamlecha. So even though the names change a little bit, Gedula is Chesed, Ki Kol is the Gematria, Yesod, and Mamlecha is Malchut, whatever. He basically abstracts out the ideas behind the operations of God in the world and gives them conceptual names. So the concept of the Sfirot, it's going behind the scenes of a world that we see and experience with our senses and our feelings, and giving us a framework or giving us a language to talk about the energetic system behind the world that we experience. And really ultimately puts us in relationship with the One. With the One. Our whole thing last week was behind all of the different energies of creation is the One. And behind all of the different layers of my own personality is a oneness. And then when I know that I'm dealing with a One, then I can come into my own oneness. And we said very, very important, 1 + 1 = 1. We come into a oneness with God that's not just conceptual, not just ideas, but experiential. That's where this class leads ultimately. Okay, it's going to lead through a lot of ideas. And there's so much that we can, only so much we can share on that level, but deep down, that's what I want, and I hope that we can bring out more of that. and including meditative things, because the second part of inner space, we're not going to wait to get there, we're going to go there. After the holidays, we're going to start, like, what is the meditative system that Kaplan presents here in the second part of inner space, and how does it connect into this first? As we say in the introduction, right, the second part of inner space was from a second set of classes. So we decided to publish it together because the second set wouldn't do much good to anybody without the first set. It's an independent series of lectures on the first chapter of the book of Ezekiel. It was given in 1982, whereas the first part of the book was from 1981. So in these lectures, Kaplan developed the theme of meditation as it manifests itself in prophecy. It seemed logical to join this section with the first part of the book rather than publish it as a separate volume because it would be useless to a beginner without the knowledge of the basic principles of Kabbalah expounded in the first part. I'll just give you the overview of what we're trying to do. It's the energetic system behind, not only behind creation, but behind our own personalities, to meet the Creator within ourselves through the names that have been given, the prophetically given. They're from the Tanakh. The words Chesed and Gevurah and Tiferet are given to us through the prophets. Please do.
I heard, I can't remember where, but that actually that in the Kabbalistic system that the Mikvah, the receiver, is actually a higher function than the bestower. Is that, can you talk about that?
I never liked, oh, hi Esther, this is my wife, hi. Thank you for coming. Great. When did you come in? I didn't see you.
Oh, yeah, no.
My goodness. Okay, so,
She's in the
oh, good. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהכל נהיה בדברו. There's a taste of lemon. I never like to kind of say one thing is better than the other.
Not better, but that's actually a higher function.
They both have very high functions. I mean, unless I can understand more why you're saying, but usually my answer will usually be there's no. Every single part of the system has its intrinsic goodness and highness, and it can go as high as you want with it. Receiving itself is an art that when we become receivers who become givers, right? What he says here and what we just read here, that the receiver, the whole idea, the purpose of giving is realized a relationship where the one who receives can reciprocate and become a giver. Become a giver vis-a-vis the one who gave to us, and we become givers vis-a-vis those who are in other relationships with us. That's what bowing is all about. Somebody wanted to say something? Oh. One more. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like the feeling, I'm like feeling like there's electric current coming out. Unless the electric currents, attached to my hair dryer, it's not going to do anything. You got to be attached to some sort of.
My tech has to be plugged into my sheka. What are you saying? Yeah.
That the current of giving itself can't produce anything unless it activates something.
In me.
So what you're saying about the receiver having a big role, that makes like a role that you can take the energy from something, do something for real with it, like while you're here, or make toast. You don't have a machine attached to it. What do you do with it?
I mean, actually, when I thought about, what the meaning of that might be, and I'm not sure about it, what I thought is that the receptive quality is that if you're thinking in terms of receiving from something greater than you, a place that all is connected, which is greater than an individual, that the ability to receive that inflow is a very high function.
Without the block, you said.
Hmm?
Without blocks, without having a block.
No, well, maybe, yeah, but it's kind of like being able to receive kind of something purely from something greater than God.
You can be open to receiving, you can be close to it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's it. Whereas the bestowers, it's the active principle, and I, agree with you that we need both.
You are
But
both.
if you
We are
don't
both. There's nothing.
have the-
There's nothing here in this whole system that is not both. So I really find it interesting to now go to the other side. That the incredible high operation called giving, and then let's balance out. Then we can go to the high level of receiving. But the point is here that that they're both important. They both play very important parts. In other words, us as receivers, we in a sense allow a certain process to take place, and if I block it, as you said, as you very well said, if I block it, then I'm preventing creation from coming to its next stage. So we could think about it. Well, right now I just want to share with you this. I promised to bring it in, and I want everybody to have this, and it's a beautiful thing that it's amazing that Leah Lisa actually did this, and this is not the color version of it, but it's still striking and beautiful. It's on page 4 of this set. So this is like the picture with 1,000 words for me. This is the whole system of Judaism encapsulated here. And it says a lot. So let's look at it together. The first thing is that at the top is called crown is Keter. Keter, it's called a kamsan, a stingy person, a stingy sphere. The voweling of Keter, there are 9 types of vowels. From Keter all the way down to Yesod, and Malchut does not have its own vowel. It's the funnel through which all the others pour. But Keter's vowel is kamatz, which is a line and a dot. They're all dots and dashes. Dots are female, and dashes are male. And this is the only one that's officially like this, is both. Chochmah is just a dash, Bina is just 2 dots, vertically placed. Chesed is 3 dots, Gevurah is 2 dots, Bina is 2 dots horizontally placed. Gevurah is 2 dots vertically placed. I showed you something, I don't need it right now, I have it on charts, it's helpful to know about it. Tiferet is 1 dot on top of a letter, the sound of it is O. Netzach and Hod, etc. Hod, Yesod. So kamatz is very interesting because it's this dash and this dot. And it's called a kamatz. And it has the same root as the word kamsan, a stingy person. Why? Because it receives directly from that which is above, and it receives it in a very powerful way. But if it would give if it would give in the same way, if it would give without limiting it, if it would give exactly what it received down to Chochmah, it would blow Chochmah apart. So it has to be stingy in the way that it gives in order to have the system, which is a step-down system, where we can then be down at the bottom and not be damaged or harmed by the incredible power. Let's just imagine getting too close to the sun, right? In our state of existence right now, in our physical state of being close to the sun would be damaging to us. Without an ozone, we'd be damaged. At one point, we're promised in a very positive way, the ozone, or that is to say, the sheath around the Earth, and also the sheath around the sun, will be removed, and the full light will be manifest. At that point, we'll be ready for it, and all of Earth life will be lifted up to a whole other level, physically, spiritually, in every way. We will become the level of the sun, and it won't end there. The spiritual teachings of Kabbalah are very explicit about this. that it won't be a harmful thing. Right now it would be harmful, therefore it has to be limited by a pair of sunglasses called the ozone that limits the ultraviolet rays coming in from the sun and from other places in the solar system, and allows us to exist in the limited form that we presently exist in. So the receiving mechanism has to be protected and not to be overwhelmed by the giver itself. Then Chochmah gives to Bina, and that's also the beginning of Etz Chaim. It's called a system of maybe is Rav Shalom here? The beginning of Etz Chaim. I know he has it somewhere. Where's this Etz Chaim? If you wouldn't mind going to the stairs and calling him, where's the Etz Chaim of Yari? It'll help if we get it. Okay. So, let's all settle down into ourselves, into our bodies, and be very aware, so that the class doesn't have one. I can't believe it. Okay, so that the class will be, the energy that's flowing into us, that we can receive it better. So just take a few moments to be aware of your neck, the back of your head, different parts where your shoulders might be stiff. Let's loosen up, let's breathe. Last year we did, thank God, a lot of learning about meditative techniques and doing things and learning more about ourselves. So that's going to come in at certain points. He does have it. Shalom. Thank you so much. Oh. This is a different one that I have. Let's see if it's the Shara Klalim. That's before. Maybe it's called here Petichat Korelet.
What book is that?
It's Etz Chaim. I'll tell you in a second. Is this something that is this called a different name or what? It's a very different than ever I've seen. It's amazing. Totally different. I'm surprised this isn't. What it has is that the way that the infinite interacts with the finite. Mm-hmm. Since it's very different than what I have, I don't know exactly where to find it. Unless it's right here. Could be it. No, this is not it. Okay. It's okay. Etz Chaim means tree of life, or the living tree. And it's the teachings of the Ari, in one of the most important books we have. Starts at the top, comes all the way down to those 50 gates. The 50 gates of Etz Chaim, of the tree of life. Okay, but it doesn't have exactly what I want for some reason in this version. So, something got something disappeared in the process. I don't know. Interesting. Does anybody have any pages that are not what we've been studying? You have some Hebrew?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. In our prayers on Rosh Hashanah, in the chart that we were doing, so we're going to do a little bit of what's this chart about on page 2. Forgive me for being a little bit jumpy. We started the Chesed Gvur Tiferet, and that took us on a whole trip into the Sfirot with Rabbi Kaplan, etc. The three main personalities associated with Chesed, Gvur, and Tiferet are Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. We've spoken about that. So look at how the prayers that we say every day, and especially during the days of awe, are set up according to this triadic system. The Amidah that we say, even during the week, and all times, and it changes, Shabbat, holidays, but it always retains a threefold structure. The first 3 brachot are called praise. The last 3 brachot are called thanks. And in between is called request. Personal requests. And during the year we'll see even very much more into how this works, but this is, again, it's good to see large structures first before we do any details. Praise is basic gratitude for being alive, is awakening in myself a relationship to the one above me who's giving me life. So the first part of the prayer is if I would just start asking God what I need without getting into the relationship that I have with and a recognition of how I am thankful for my life, it would be kind of, like jumping the gun. So basic gratitude for being alive has to be the beginning or the starting point for being able to ask for what I need, for my existential pain, my basic needs.
Doesn't God know that?
For sure, it's for me. Yeah, no, for sure. And it's how you see, I'm going to be the one who determines how energy manifests into my life. That sounds like a New Age thing, but that's basically what Jewish prayer is that we, through our consciousness, which means our thoughts and our speech and our actions, and even above that, our consciousness itself, something behind even our thoughts, we determine how the divine flow comes into this world. And when we know that and we align ourselves more with that, then we become we become channels for that. We can embody that more fully. So there is an aspect of prayer of me asking God for something that I need, and believing that He's going to answer me. But really, the real essence of prayer is me, through my speech and through my thoughts, aligning myself, kind of like aligning myself energetically with God. And the words become no more than just, they are meaningful and they're important, especially if I need something. But mostly, the inner level is, besides my personal needs, is a resonance with my divine source. Just that itself is so much what prayer is about. It's standing there and not asking for anything. It's just being in that light, knowing that I'm known, that I'm a created being, and allowing that awareness to penetrate into me, because I'm coming I'm trekking up the mountain. I'm walking in the desert. I'm coming from work. I'm doing stuff, right? And now I'm coming back to myself, so to speak. It's relationship. So in the large picture of the Amidah, 3 brachot at the beginning, 3 at the end. During the weeks, normal weekdays, there's 13 in between, 13 specific things, and it divides into 3, 3, 3, and 3. And there's one extra one that was added later, but it divides into triads. We could do that, not now. But the idea is that it's all basically requests. It's personal requests, it's national requests, it's cosmic requests, and then each one breaks up into a very clear pattern. But it's my needs. It's me as a being asking for what I need. Now, in the first 3 itself, which are all considered praise, that also breaks up into the next one called Avot, Gvurot in the middle, Kedusha. So Avot is the first bracha itself of the first 3. It contains mention of all 3, Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, which you see in the next line down, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov. But all together, it's one big Avraham thing. It has all 3 in it, but basically the way to see it is almost like a telescope. I see something as a globe. The closer I get, I can see more details about it. So as a general thing, the first 3 brachot are all Avraham relative to the middle brachot, which are Yitzhak, and the last ones, which are Yaakov. Then I focus more on the first 3, and I say that there are 3 of them, not just all just praise, but there are 3 of them, and they are also Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And then I focus even more on even the first bracha is Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. You see, it's hard for me to say it any better than that. But the higher up you go, that which is multiplicity down below becomes more unified up there. It's all there, but it's in a more unified state. Does that make sense? No.
But the end that problem was again Abraham. You're saying again Abraham is again Yaakov. Like the bracha ends really only meant to
With Abraham, right? It has all 3.
That's why it's with the same, but I can't get a shift.
But each one has its own unique contribution and characteristic, which make up the whole.
Right.
For example, even in the Al-Qaeda, Abraham go against his nature and sacrifice his own son, so he became holding back, but he did in the end. And it's like you might think, I mean, Midrashim altogether, but he wants you to be tough. So that's like giving loving. He had the love.
That's right.
He wanted to be the korban, the sacrifice. And his father, he was strong. He was willing to do it.
They switched roles. Wow. In terms of the tikkun of, they say that.
But together they were necessary.
Here you see the two qualities of Avraham Yitzhak are called Yira and Ahava, awe and love, and they're horizontally read here, Yira above and Ahava below. So the Akedah, they say, was that the Yira is now read here on this side only, and Ahava on this side. There was a binding a binding of the two. They became each other. And in doing so, they both became lifted up to a higher level. There's some wonderful teachings about this, and really it's important to go into Avram Yitzhak, especially because the reading on Rosh Hashanah morning is the birth of Yitzhak, and the reading on the second day of Rosh Hashanah is the Akedah. And there's an amazing story, amazing Torah that Shlomo gave over that we'll maybe end with. I was just going to show you. I was going to show you how the prayers are the dynamic is unfolding. Let me just go a little bit more before we'll do this quickly. Below Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, below that line is Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Hanora. So Hagadol is exactly the quality of Chesed of Abraham. Gibor is exactly the quality of Gevur of Yitzhak. Nora is a code word when Yaakov was at the side of the temple that had not been built yet in his time. But he said, Ma Nora Makom Mazeh, how awesome is this place? So Nora is a word that connects with Yaakov very strongly. The next set of words in the first bracha of the Amidah are again in Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Completely, you can't even miss it. Gomer Chasadim Tovim is an Avraham concept. Koneh HaKol is not as clear. It means that God is the owner of all. It's a Yitzhak concept. So Chesdei Avot, again, not as clear as you have to work with it, which I do show in my books, but it's a Yaakov. Maybe Goel V'nei B'nehem L'man Shemo. Here I did it in the chart form. I didn't bring it to you, but when you're doing this when you're praying the Amidah in the first bracha, you can do it in such a way that in your mind, if you know it by heart, and if not, on the page, you can, but slightly to the right when you say Elohei Abraham, slightly to the left when you say Elohei Yitzhak, in the middle when you say Elohei Yaakov. Ha'el, I put it in the middle. Hagadol on the right. Hagibor on the left. It has to be subtle movements. You're not bowing. You're just moving. And eventually you can just move your eyes and your head, and then you can just move your mind. And you can do it all in one frame. Right, left, center, right, left, center, right, left, center, right, left, center. And in the bottom, the last word before the bracha is be'ahava, is it shoots up all the way to the top. There's a dynamic here. There's a meditation level here that's mostly out of the reach of most people. But that's, again, where we can go with these. We're building the structure. But the right, left, the simplicity of right, left, center leads to a lot of things. Because when I realize it's first of all, just become aware of it being everywhere. That there's a right, left, center in every relationship, in every situation. There's what I can give, what I can receive, and then there's that combination of how the best to do it, right? Just to finish the chart, it goes into the middle brachot. On Rosh Hashanah, the third bracha, Atah Kadosh. Here in this chart, it's called Kiddusha Shel Rosh Hashanah, in the right column. So then, to the left of that, it says Uvechen Yitkadesh Shimcha. In the middle, Uvechen Ten Pachtecha, Uvechen Ten Kavod. What's it talking about? In Atah Kadosh, which is the third bracha, it opens up into a whole long thing, and it ends differently than it ever ends on the weekdays. It ends Baruch Atah Hashem HaMelech HaKadosh. So it's a very important, essential, key part of all the prayers on Rosh Hashanah. And at one point, there are four things called Uvechen. Where is it? You have tunes? You must have amazing tunes. So there's four Uvechens, except in the Ashkenazi Nusach there's three, but in the Sephardi and in the Hasidic there's four. Come on, let me find it. I brought the wrong pages. So it's an Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov thing. Here I brought just the Malchuyot and the Zichron, the Malchuyot, Zichron, and Shofarot. But there's one before it that I missed. Uvechen yitkadesh shemcha Hashem Elokeinu al Yisrael amecha. This is the basic nusach. It goes on. Please Hashem, sanctify your name over the children of Israel. And it can be read as a double meaning. Al Yisrael amecha, over the children of Israel, is al yedei, through, by means of the children of Israel. Sanctify your name in the world through us. Let us be Abraham and Sarah's. Let us do your work. Let us be successful. Let us make a difference. The next one is Uvechen ten pachtecha Hashem Elokeinu al kol ma'asecha ve'ematcha al kol meshvarata v'yiraucha kol ha'ma'asim v'yishtachavu lecha b'nei kol ha'beru'im. Hashem, put your fear on all you've created. In a sense, make the earth shake. Break the ego of the nations of the world to recognize your existence. Reveal yourself in a powerful way. That's Yitzhak. In the Ashkenazi Nusach, they actually skip over Abraham because this is called the Day of Judgment. It's a Yitzhak day. They skip over the Abraham aspect and go straight to Yitzhak, but the Sephardim and the Hasidim refuse to compromise. They want Abraham there also. Everything is always holistic. So the Abraham aspect, even within the Yom Din, even though the concept of judgment, Abraham is there. Give us a chance. Give us a chance. Let us make a difference. The world is going down. The world is becoming more and more violent. Let us make a difference. It's not too late. You can help us make the difference, Hashem. That's Abraham. That's Sarah. Yitzhak, whatever we can't do, Mamish, scare the hell out of it. Let human beings begin to become aware that there's something above them, and they can't do just whatever they want. That's Yitzhak. Yaakov, uvechen tzadikim yiru v'yismachu. Uvechen ten kavod le'amecha v'utihila li'yirecha. And therefore, uvechen means therefore. And therefore give glory or honor to your people, which is a Yaakov concept. Baruch kevod Hashem imkomo. Or Baruch Kavod, Baruch Shem Kavod Mchotel is what Yaakov said. Kavod is very connected to Yaakov. So again, according to the code words involved, there's an Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov thing. And then there's David is the last one, is V'chen Tzadikim Yiru V'yismachu. Uv'chen Tzadikim Yiru V'yismachu. Uv'chen Tzadikim Uv'chen tzadikim yiru v'yismachu. Na 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 na. And then the three middle brachot of the Musaf are Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which is Malchuyot. The verses there are of a certain nature. There's 10 verses. There's 10 verses of remembrances. There's 10 verses of shofar, and they break up again into the three. And as we said last week, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah is Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. The unbroken Tekiah, the broken Teruah, and the Shvarim, and the unbroken Yaakov. Surrounding the middle position, always, with love. What Hashem wants to give us is so awesome. I've tried to progress through this maze of terms, maybe overdoing it. Feeling that, I wanted you to become familiar with the terms. The story in the last few moments is that we have a tradition that that every soul before we're born, we're shown our whole life. And so Shlomo told it in a way that there's an angel there with us, and he's showing us our whole life. I heard this from David Zeller. I love Shlomo. And we're saying, wow. Well, firstly, he's showing us the whole world, and the ultimate vision of the world, the perfection, the perfected world. It's so beautiful. And then we're shown the world as it is. And the angel is recording our reaction. The disparity between the way the world could be and will be eventually, and the way the world is right now, it causes us to go into a state of, oh my God, why are people doing that? Why are people acting like that towards you? Why are they treating each other like that? Why are they fighting? Why are they killing? So the angel is saying, well, what would you do? What would you do to make the world a better place? And as we talk, the angel's writing it down. And that becomes our mission statement for our lives. And so there was one soul once that said, I would give everything, I would give anything and everything, the most precious thing in my life, I'd give it in order to be able to make the world a better place. Being not able to develop it too much more in the time, I would give everything I can, everything that's precious to me, the most precious thing, in order to make the world a better place. Okay, the angel's writing it down. Another soul a long time later comes and says, its reaction, I would give my life. I would do anything, but people shouldn't do that to each other. To reveal God in the world, I would be willing to die. So, when Abraham and Yitzhak are walking up the hill of Mount Moriah towards the Akedah, they both start to feel, this is very familiar. Abraham starts to think, why is this happening to me? I'm giving my son. Hashem is commanding to take my son as far as I can understand. Lift him up to be an Ola means to burn him. Whereas Ola means elevation, offering. The associations with it are mostly, and the Ola is burnt. But it doesn't mean burn. But that's where he's holding. Maybe this is what I said before I was born. This feels so familiar. It must be that I took this on myself. And at the same time, Yitzhak, in his own thoughts, my father has made it clear to me, he's hinted to me, God will see to it to bring a sheep here, my son. Meaning, God will see to it that there'll be a sheep here, and it is you, my son. It must be me. Whatever my father says, I'm for it. Wow. This is so deep. I'm going to give my life. Again, it feels like this is something that I took on myself before I was born. Now, whether I'm really doing justice to this, the point is that this sheds a whole different light on the Akedah. The two of them are deep in their own thoughts, and they're both realizing this is the whole purpose that I took on myself before I was born. And they look at each other, and Yitzhak says to Abraham, I know, Father, and it's cool, I'm with you. And they hug each other. And he says, Abraham says it also, and they completely share with each other. And they take it upon themselves at that moment to do it, and that's why it's called off, because it's as if they've done it at that point. Again, to do justice to this, maybe Rav Shalom, you've heard this, you know this better than I do, it changed a lot for me. To put it in the context that I feel so comfortable with, that I really, really believe that we were told what our lives would be like before we were born. So take that into account, make a note of it to yourselves, that we're here now in order to fulfill our deepest purpose in life. And when we connect to that, it's profound. It makes us cry, because we know that there's something here that's beyond what we can ever possibly have dreamed, and yet we're doing it. And we're taking it on ourselves, and we're accepting it. That changes the whole energy of our lives. It changes our relationship with Hashem. We're ready to go to the next stage. The acceptance, sometimes, of the difficult things, that is apparently what I needed to go through. My whole past, my present, I accept whatever you give me in the future. That acceptance of my whole past, that's a meditation. that acceptance of what's going on in my life right now, whatever difficulties I'm having, that acceptance, that trust that whatever is going to be in my life, my past, my present, and my future, completely accept it, because I know that you are the one who's decided it for me, and you are the one who's doing everything in my benefit. That changes my relationship with God. So basically, we're ending where we landed last week, that knowing that behind Hashem's Gevurah, that is behind his din, behind him sitting on a throne of judgment, is not just a throne of love, but the awesome love of the Creator, is that changes something in me. Please take these, use them, live with them. There's no way that I can do any more than just the words, but the feelings is what we should go into Rosh Hashanah with. The awesome feeling of joy that we are privileged to live in this time. And Hashem bless us all. We have one more week before Rosh Hashanah, and one more week after that before Yom Kippur.
There's no class next Tuesday night.
Oh, right. Why?
There you go.
No, next Monday night. We're a Monday night class. That's what we do have a class next week. That's pretty close, and that's very intense for us to do a class before Rosh Hashanah. So please, God, let's do it. Let's be here.
Thank you.
Please, if you haven't signed in, please sign in and make your contribution to the class. Pass the box around, pass the street around, it's very important. Okay? Don't let it just sit there. Let it move.
Who hasn't signed in?
If there's no room on the sheet, please use the back side of it. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
God bless. I never heard of you have a source besides what we got?
I've asked Rabbi Sutton in New York. He heard it the same time I heard it from David. David Zeller we were in New York together for a conference. He gave it over. Okay.
Nice to meet you.